for having us. We're really excited to be here, and I get the honor of talking, just kind of bringing to light what we're talking about today. So we had the opportunity to meet with Paul and McKenna several months back, and we were just talking about what you guys do in your ministry, how you pour yourselves out. We were also talking about the holidays coming up, which I know you're like, coming up, Jennifer, come on, it's summer. In reality, Costco has already got, Halloween stuff out, and I think Costco is really the one that defines how things flow, right? So, but with that, we were talking about how as care providers, we often pour out, and in a season where we're probably likely to pour out even more around the holidays, how do we come to that space full? And so today, our talk is going to be a combination of talking about application of things for you personally, as well as applications towards having interactions and conversations with those that you potentially would be caring or providing services for. I know we have a variety of different types of care people in the room. I'm going to ask your permission to, when I talk about the person that you're providing care for, I'm going to refer to them as a counselee, just because that verbiage kind of makes sense to me. So I hope that you understand that works okay. But just so you know where I'm coming from. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Is the title already kind of tips your hand a bit, is the idea of being still before the Lord. So that's my fun little segment I get to share on. And then we're going to be talking about being filled, and then ultimately by being led. And the reality is that we cannot lead others, pour into others until we've been filled, right? And to be filled, we need to be still. So it all kind of flows together. So we'll see how it goes, but hopefully you find it to be helpful for you today. Now, my specific area is in the area of being still. And my portion of the talk is not only about that, but also about in our stillness, what do we do? I'm going to be hitting two different Psalms today, and they're probably very familiar to you. So the first is Psalms 46, and the other is Psalms 139. And so as we talk through these things, I'm going to be referencing those Psalms. I don't have all of it up on the screen, but I'm hoping that you'll be able to follow along with me. So Psalms 139 is honestly one of my favorite Psalms, and I think because it's so beautiful in its description, right, of this idea of God knowing us intimately. So it starts out saying, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. It ends in Psalms 139:10. It says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." And it's this place of just this beautiful intimacy as we sit with the Lord and we ask him to search us. So that's one of the verses that we're going to be talking about today. And the other is, "Be still and know that I am God," which is Psalms 46. So as we think about this idea of being still before the Lord, what we know is that when we sit before God, God knows us intimately. He knows us personally. Think about the scriptures you know. He knows the very hairs on your head. He is familiar with all your ways, Psalms 139 says. You cannot flee from his presence. So there's this incredible personal relationship. In Psalms 139, the passage says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." And that know in its original form is the word yada. Yada, not Yoda, yada. And yada is defined as a very personal type of knowledge, not an intellectual knowledge where you have memorization, but a personal experiential knowledge. So when we think about being still before this God of ours, he knows us with depth and intimacy. So the other thing we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about self-awareness and self-care. And I'm thinking, honestly, here's a bunch of people who provide care in the room, and you're probably thinking, maybe, Jennifer, really? I know about self-care. I know about self-awareness. As I work with people, as I meet with people, I'm always preaching self-care, self-awareness. And yet today is really about focusing in on our own self-awareness. And why is that so important? So we'll touch base on that a little bit later on. Why is it important for us as care providers to be self-aware ourselves? And how does being still fit into that? So let's look at the verse itself in Psalms 46:10. "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and know, yada, that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Now, the context of Psalm 46, which I love, if you have a chance, if you haven't read it lately, it's kind of interesting because the psalm itself has different pictures of different settings. And it just reminds me of life in general. Sometimes we have these calm, peaceful days, and sometimes we have these wildly chaotic days, and sometimes we have really hard days. And Psalms 46 reflects that. But in between the stanzas, there's these beautiful pieces where God says, remember me, remember who I am with you. And then, of course, verse 10 is be still and know I am God. So even in the best day where we're distracted by all the wonderfulness, or the hardest day where we're distracted by all the pain, God still brings us back and says, remember who I am and know who I am because I'm with you and I meet you in those spaces, right? We talk about this when we talk to our counselees. That's what we provide care for. Today, I wanted to, because I know as care providers, sometimes we can be buzzing around and we're talking about, self-care and self-awareness to everybody else, but we don't sit and we're not still ourselves. And so I'd like to indulge in some time of stillness in this space today for you to experience what it's like to be still before the Lord. And I imagine that many times, most of you have probably done that at some point, but thinking in terms of I just realized I didn't start my thing. Thinking in terms of being still before him and putting aside the things of the day. So maybe you had an amazing morning that was full of worship and it was joyous and incredible. Maybe you had a full-on fight with your spouse on the way home from church. I don't know, but at the end of the day, we're going to get to have the pleasure of sitting with the Lord right now. So I know some of you are eating, and so I'm going to ask for you to set aside the forks for now. I want you to get comfortable in your chairs, and I'm going to lead you through just a time of stillness. And in this, it gives you the opportunity just to be with your Lord. And so I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And we're basically going to take some slow, deep breaths. Typically, you would breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. But you breathe however you want. Just breathe in and breathe out. As you're breathing in, fill your abdomen. Think about your belly extending and filling with air. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now as you're breathing, I'm just going to read the passage, and I want you just to reflect on what you're hearing. Be still and know that I am God. Breathe in. Breathe out. Be still and know that I am God. Breathe in. Breathe out. Be still and know that I am God. Breathe in. I want to invite you in this still moment before God to consider Psalms 139. As you sit before the Lord, ask him, search me, O God, and know my heart right now in this moment. Test me, God, and know my thoughts. See if there's any offensive way, God, that you want to reveal to me right now. Is there any offensive way in me? And lead me in the way everlasting. Just continue to breathe and keep your eyes closed. Just let God speak to your heart. As you're breathing and relaxing, recognize that honestly the most effective self-awareness happens when we sit still before the Lord. In the posture you are right now, listening, inviting him to examine you. When we hold this posture, God's going to reveal things that he wants for us to see. You might say, my child, you're tired. You're heavy laden. Give me your burdens. I will give you rest. My child, you're anxious and worried about so many things. Just sit and be still with me. My child, you are hurt. You're holding on to anger or things that Satan is going to use for harm. I need you to surrender. Trust me. The most gentle confrontation you're ever going to receive is from God the Holy Spirit, who loves you so deeply. I'm going to ask you to just place your palms on your lap and put them downward, your hands on your lap with your palms facing downwards. Continuing to breathe. But this is just a symbolic gesture. If there's anything God has put on your heart that you need to just let go, it just needs to be handed to him. Just release it. Take your hands and turn them upward, those palms upward. And again, it's just a symbol that you're ready to receive whatever the Lord has for you right now. Father God, we just thank you that in this space that we come before you, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, this magnificent creator, and yet you are so gentle and humble in heart and kind and generous that you meet us wherever we are, in our places of joy, in our places of chaos, in our places of victory or defeat, struggle. Thank you, Father, for just the space that we could be still before you, to know that you are God, and that we can trust in that 100%. In Jesus' name, I pray these things. Amen. Thank you for indulging me. Hopefully that gives you that experience, right? I find a lot of times when I'm sitting with the Lord in the morning, I dive into scripture and I forget to be still. And that stillness is so instrumental in God revealing and making me aware of things in my heart that he wants to soothe, he wants to comfort, he wants to fill, he wants to care for, he wants to unburden off of me. And so having the practice, experiencing the practice, you can also, of course, bring this into your relationships with the people you care for to encourage them to understand what it means to be still before the Lord. Now, this is obviously more of a proactive exercise. Like, I'm going to intentionally set aside some time to be with the Lord, and I'm going to take that time to sit with him. Sometimes self-awareness comes in different forms, right? This form is a very proactive, intentional, set aside time, but self-awareness can also be in the moment. Think about anybody recently just had a situation where some emotions just flare up out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, what was that? I know I do. And this, when we talk about self-awareness, this is the type of self-awareness of making a commitment that in the moment we're going to create margin so that we can better understand ourselves, right? And so if we don't make that commitment to margin and we have this flooding of emotions, then we can miss an opportunity to really understand what's going on inside of us, right? And so ideally, when we have these emotions, we want to, as quickly as possible, lean into them. We want to lean in to understand them in the moment as much as possible. And then when we understand them, it gives us an opportunity to then respond to that emotion and potentially respond to the underlying need that's driving that emotion. A lot of times we have needs, but we don't even recognize we have needs. We just are buzzing along and it's like we're bouncing off and we don't really slow down and go, wow, you know what? I'm really depleted. I need some rest. Right? So when we take the time for margin, then essentially it gives us an opportunity. We have a choice, really. It either is an opportunity where we are controlled by our emotions because we don't create margin, or we are informed by our emotions because we create margin. So those are kind of our choices when emotions surges. It's like I either have to lean in and know myself and understand myself, or I just become very reactive. So for example, let's just say it's Thanksgiving is coming up and I have a sister. I don't really have a sister, but I have a sister, and she has asked me, hey, can you watch my 2 little kids for the week because I've got a ton of work commitments? And I'm like, of course, I love my little niece and nephew. I'm happy to do that. And then it's a week before Thanksgiving and she's like, oh my gosh, I had this thing happen and I'm doing a little bit of a remodel and it's taking too long. Can you host Thanksgiving? And I'm like, now I have emotions coming up, right? I'm like, oh, okay. How do I feel about this? I know right now I don't feel good, and I have an opportunity in that moment. I can either go, are you crazy, and just blast her, or I can pull back and go, what am I feeling? I also could probably do other things, but just for the example, I'm going to pull back and I'm going to evaluate, what am I feeling right now? You guys have on your table some feeling word lists. Of course, as a therapist, I'm going to, go, yay, feelings word list. But honestly, even as someone who is very, I'd like to say, invested in understanding my emotions, I often find a feelings word list is super helpful because we're all really good at going, I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm happy, but getting into more details on what I'm feeling emotionally can really help me to better understand myself. So in this example, I probably would find, gosh, you know what, I feel overwhelmed. Maybe I feel slightly resentful towards my sister. Maybe I feel taken advantage of. So spending a little time looking at a feelings word list is going to give you a little bit more of a detailed understanding of how am I really feeling. And then when I know how I'm feeling, I have a choice. I can respond to that. I'm feeling overwhelmed. So therefore, a good choice might be to talk with my sister about it and say, hey, you know what? Thanksgiving feels like a lot on top of watching the kids, on top of me having my own job, on top of I'm volunteering for this Blue Christmas thing and they're having an event and they're preparing and it's a lot. Can we work on something a little bit together so I can take some of this off of my plate? But if I don't pay attention to that emotion, I could be going, you know what, I just got to suck it up and I'm going to be a martyr and I'm going to do everything and then I'm going to be grouchy and not nice and not enjoy Thanksgiving, right? So our emotions either control us or they inform us. And so it's so important for us when we talk about self-awareness that we understand what we feel so that we can be informed to move towards then how can I take care of that feeling? It's reflecting something deeper in me right now and it needs to be cared for. And if it's not cared for, it's going to show up other places. Many research studies show that people who have migraines, people who have back issues, that it's all related to undealt with feelings. That at the very least, undealt with feelings exacerbates physiological symptomology. So, lots of reasons to be self-aware, right? What I'd like to do is just spend a few minutes talking about self-care and self-awareness. Now, with self-awareness, I said earlier, as care providers, if you're self-aware, it's going to be a benefit. If you're not self-aware, it could be possibly harmful. And so I want you to spend a few minutes at your table. So just talking about the questions I'm about to put up on the screen. So the first question is, why is it important to be self-aware as a care provider? So I want you guys just to talk for a few minutes with yourselves. And how do you think self-awareness can help your ability to care for others? And how do you think self-awareness, not being self-aware, could hurt your ability to care for others? So talk for a few minutes, and then I'm going to share some of my thoughts on it, and I'll see if you guys came up with some other things or not, and we'll kind of move from there. So maybe 3 minutes. The hard stuff first. I'm going to start with the if you're not self-aware, here's some potential pitfalls that you could fall into. So I'll be interested if you're like, oh yeah, we talked about that. The first is when we're lacking self-awareness as a care provider, we can be vulnerable to spiritual attack, right? Mainly because in so many ways, when we don't know how we feel, then we can find ourselves not attending to feelings that may be of anger or frustration. Let's say, for example, maybe you're working with a counselee or someone you're caring for, and you have a meeting every week at 2 o'clock, and they keep showing up like randomly, or they call the last minute and cancel, or maybe you've given them something, you're like, you know what, this week I really want you to work on this or meditate on this, and they go, oh, I forgot. And you have feelings. Now, if those feelings go unattended and you don't go, if you have feelings of, I would have feelings, and I have had feelings when I care for people, of frustration, like I'm here, I'm coming prepared, I'm setting aside this time, and you're blowing it off. And that makes me feel frustrated, maybe unappreciated. Who knows what I might feel? I would probably get out my feelings word list. And with that, if I don't attend to that, it starts to simmer inside of me. And we know, isn't Satan wonderful at taking the things that are negative and simmering inside of us and just, blowing, turning up the heat even more, right? So you might hear Satan go, see, if you were better at counseling, then they'd probably come more often, right? Stuff like that. The enemy is going to attack because we are not dealing with the feelings that we have. So you can be vulnerable. You might find that maybe you don't deal with the feelings and you become impatient with your counselee, or you start becoming judgmental or short. And that's going to affect the relationship, right? Over time, they're going to sense something is not great about my counselor or my support group leader, and I feel not safe anymore. So we can be very vulnerable to spiritual attack when we don't know how we feel. Next, we can lack. When we lack self-awareness, we can inaccurately project or assume things that aren't true. And it's kind of like putting on glasses that the lenses are dirty, and it affects your perspective, right? I can't see things as clearly, and so it's very easy in those times when I'm not dealing with my emotions to make assumptions about my counselees, like, well, they must feel this way or they must be doing that, when in fact, I'm projecting my own emotional experience into the situation. So it's so important as care providers that we are aware of what's going on inside of us so we don't put that on our counselees or those people in our lives. We can also slide into codependency. If you tend to be more codependent or maybe more avoidant, then when we don't deal with our feelings, it just exacerbates those patterns. So for example, a codependent person might feel like, oh gosh, I really need to make sure my counselee feels happy with the situation, or this couple is getting really worked up and I got to keep the peace, or I got to figure it out. And when we don't manage our own sense of unease and go, you know what, I don't have to keep the peace. I don't have to make them happy. I mean, it's not our job as care providers to make those that we care for happy. Sometimes we have to say hard things, right? And it's not always easy. So when we slide into those codependency sorts of traits because we're not dealing with our own emotions, it tends to have negative effects on our care. On the other end, where a codependent is maybe overinvested in their care, an avoidant type might be underinvested in care. And so again, if my feelings are not tended to and I'm irritated, I might find that I'm starting to pull away from the people that I care for, or I'm frankly, maybe less compassionate or even indifferent. Or maybe like, I'm going to move in for the quick fix just because I'm tired of listening to, them complain. And that's an indicator. If you're tired of listening to them complain, if that's what's going through your head, you have feelings that are not attended to, and you've got to figure that out, or else it's going to impact the care, right? And finally, when we lack self-awareness, we risk burnout. And now the reason for our emotions is to alert us, right? So if I'm feeling weary or tired or overwhelmed, or I notice, gosh, I'm not really excited to meet with this person, it's starting to become a pattern, I have to allow that emotion to inform me, right? That is informing me something's going on. And when I don't take notice of I'm starting to feel tired, weary, less interested, then that is the road to burnout. So you have to recognize when you're feeling this way to attend to those feelings so that way you can care for yourself. And then, of course, hopefully avert burnout. Now, the happy news, when we are self-aware, we can often set healthy boundaries when we're self-aware. So we know as care providers, we care deeply for the people that we meet with, right? I mean, we're drawn towards that. That's how God has created us to be. And so if we are aware of feeling weary or tired, we can then take that emotion and recognize I have a need to refuel. I have a need to rest. And in that, I can avert burnout, right? But I also can potentially help the people I care for by setting healthy boundaries. Anybody set a healthy boundary with someone they care for in your care ministry and watch them actually flourish as a result of that? It's kind of an interesting thing, right? Because we can fall into this trap as care providers of like, well, I've got to help them work through the situation. But sometimes people who are in pain can demand a lot and they can expect a lot from us. And we have to be okay with the fact that we are not God to them. We're not God to them, but they have a God. And so sometimes setting a healthy boundary can move them towards being less dependent on you and your care and more dependent on the Lord. Now, of course, our care is helping them to move towards the Lord, but a healthy boundary can help them consider something outside of your care. A healthy boundary can maybe even move them towards finding a support group in the church in addition to your care, or utilizing their relationships with a good friend, a godly mentor in different ways. The other thing I notice is that sometimes when we pull back a little bit on that I've got to be all things to all people rescuing thing as a care provider, then our counselees actually develop resilience. They think, oh, I can't do this. There's no way I'm going to make it through the day unless we meet. We've got to have coffee. We've got to meet, and it's like, guess what? They made it through the day. And from that, they realized they could. And maybe that drew them into praying more, or calling and reaching out to a friend, and they realized, hey, I have other resources. So don't be afraid of setting boundaries. And especially, again, back to the whole point of self-awareness. If you become aware of you're weary and you feel like you're trying to meet too many needs for your counselees or those you care for, really step back, maybe talk with McKenna and Paul and go, this is kind of where I'm at. Because you guys are valuable assets to this ministry. And so if you start burning out, that hurts everybody. So we want to make sure that you are self-aware, and when you are self-aware, if you need support as a care provider, that you go to the people that are here for you. Okay. Ultimately, self-awareness means that we're better able to care for our own needs, right? So I can't care for my needs if I don't know what they are. It's pretty basic, but so the point is that we all have human needs, and there's no shame in that. Dr. Mijin's actually going to talk a lot about the natural human needs that we have and how God meets us and fills us in those spaces. So that's coming up next. But for now, I want to just do a quick shift to self-care, because the reality is that when we understand what we feel, that points us to, oh, potentially I have a need. Okay, I feel tired, I feel restless, I feel irritated. I need rest, I need community, I need time alone with God to be still. And ultimately then maybe I schedule some time just to be still before the Lord, or to meet with a good friend who is going to be an encouragement to me. So such a simple little pathway, but in reality it's like we can skip through all of this because we just blaze through because we're so busy. And as you come on to a holiday season, it gets even busier, right? So the concept of being still so you can understand what you're feeling, allow God to examine you, to know what those feelings are, then to respond to those feelings and those needs by some step of self-care is a way that's going to provide you to be a full vessel to be used by the Lord as you meet and care for others. So self-care is really all about knowing what we need and knowing what resources we have to meet that need. What I've noticed for myself is that it can be really easy to let other people's needs trump mine. And so, again, much like being still, I have to be very proactive in my self-care. And I commonly hear when I talk about self-care with people is, I'm too busy. I don't have time for that. Because they're thinking of self-care as this big, giant thing. But in reality, self-care can be it can be something as short as 1 minute. And it could be as long as a vacation, but think in terms of that you can be creative in self-care. So self-care might be a 5-minute stretch, just stretching. Maybe self-care is listening to your favorite worship song and singing at the top of your lungs in your car, or 2 minutes of deep breathing, or a walk, or meeting with a friend. So think in terms of it can be short or it could be longer. I personally make a list because when I need self-care, I tend to wait a little too long, and at that point I'm too tired to be creative. So I have a list to reference. Okay, what are my 2-minute self-cares? What are my 2-hour self-cares? And ideas of things that I know fuel me. And the other thing to be mindful of is with self-care is that sometimes, for one person, you might be like, oh, I love to curl up with a good book. That is the best self-care for me. And another person's like, are you kidding me? I don't want to see a book at all. I'm all about hiking. So it's going to vary from person to person what is most meaningful to you. And also it's going to vary depending on the circumstances. Like I notice when I'm doing a lot of interaction with a lot of people, self-care for me is I need to have quiet and retreat. But other times, if I'm more isolated and I've been doing a lot of work and I had my head down, self-care could very much be meeting with a friend. So it's going to vary from situation to situation. So what I want to just do is take the last few minutes together and again, learn from each other at your tables, because I feel like the best way to learn good self-care ideas is from other people. So I'm going to ask you guys to have just another brief little table discussion. Dr. Mijin's going to come up after and start her piece on talking about being filled. But I have some categories up here of self-care just to kind of get your juices flowing. But I want you each to share at least one self-care activity that you personally have found meaningful at your table with the others. And then we'll move into the next segment. Sound good?
I hope that you enjoy one another's sharing. I wanted to do one more exercise. This will make you very uncomfortable. Are you okay to be uncomfortable a little bit? No? Yeah. The concept of a be still, the reason why this is so hard is because it's uncomfortable. Okay? So let's pair up with just the next person next to you. Okay? If it is odd number, just find someone. Oh, one person can come here. Yeah. Paul, you can come. Pair with the Dr. Esther. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Well, whatever you can do. So looking at each other's, but be still without any words. Don't use any verbal, but looking at each other, but in your heart and your mind, you are speaking to them, you are loved. Everything is okay. Okay? Don't say any words. So zip your mouth, but looking at each other's eyes, but with the heart, the kindness, looking at each other's eyes, and send a message to one another. The concept of a be still, especially in our generation right now, again, Jennifer addressed a couple of concepts, right? So self-awareness and self-care. Although the terms self-care or self-awareness is a really beautiful word, but we are not comfortable with that. When I ask with the young kids, be still, what comes to their mind is within a second, bored. It's so painful that they cannot be still because they're so bored. So they're looking for something to be, fill the gap. We adults, same thing. We are maybe not that quick to get something, but we are thinking about something else. What food I should make for tomorrow, or what lunch back that I have to do, which doctor's appointments that I have to keep. All that is coming to our mind. It's very hard to be still, because the be still is very making us very uncomfortable. We don't like to be uncomfortable, but we have to kind of think why being still is a beautiful concept, but it's so uncomfortable because we have to face ourselves. You have to face your own lacking. In our generation, we don't like that concept that I am lacking in something. We will do our best to feel something so that we don't lack. Why we go to the Google chat and chat GPT all the time? Because we want to show that we are smart. Why we want to go to the nail salon, hair salon, all because we don't want to lack beauty. You want to be beautiful. So these all human needs are for everyone. It's not only for the non-believers, non-Christians. These all included all humans, including you and me, who believe Jesus. Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the Christ for all our solutions, but still we need these needs. So we're going to go over what are the human needs common to all people. In psychology, many psychologists and psychiatrists and experts and researchers study generations after generations to study about this. Why people or human behave in a certain way. Why they choose certain choices to meet their own needs. There's so many theories out there. So I'm going to share one very famous theory to explain about the needs. Okay? And then after that, we're going to talk about what are human needs according to the Christian perspective. Then how our needs filled by Christ. So let's go over by this, what we call secular psychology. Me personally, I'm a believer as well. I believe Jesus too, and I'm a psychologist. I'm not demonized, okay? I just wanted to say that. So psychology is a study about the human, how we feel, how we are affected by circumstances and, physical, genetic connections with our family histories, and then choices that we're making, why we are feeling certain way, why we are behaving certain way, is a study about the psychology, okay? One of the most famous and popular, and everyone knows about this theory, so I chose that. Theories of, hey, see, I told you, I don't even have to talk about it, but I will use this because everyone knows about this, right? Psychological theory was actually to define the human needs. So when you're looking at, say that again. Okay, so when you look at the bottom, this is actually, Maslow's theory is the steps. If you don't meet the bottom, you don't go to the second. So it's more of the steps and tier, right? So, and Dr. Esther and I were going to India tonight. We're going to fly after this. We have to go and take a shower and then go to the LAX. Go to the India. But funny thing was, last week our team was collecting unused clothes from everybody. Today, one of our missionaries were sharing how many pounds that were collected. Guess how many pounds that we collected? People don't use and clean their closet. 1,390 something pounds. 1,300 something pounds that we donated somewhere and we collected less than $400. Right? So, but we are taking this to the India because India's physical needs are unmet. Many places and area that they don't even have a clothes, they don't even have a shoes, they don't even have a vaccine, they don't even have a water. So until they meet those needs, they cannot think about the next step. Still, there's some areas in our country as well that people don't have the basic physical needs. And then after we are met, okay, I have a food, I have a shelter. So what do we want? We want safety now, right? We want a safety and security. That's why we want to go to the safer area to live. Wanted to buy a house, right? So until we do have these basic needs, we cannot think about next one. And then after we have this shelter, okay, place to go home and then, rest, then we can think about, okay, I want to belong. Love, right? Belonging, the community is very, very important. Probably this is one of the way that we're meeting our members' needs, the community. We want other members to feel belong, welcome, loved. That's why all your leaders are here. How can we do that to make our members to be welcome and belong? And they are part of our families. After we do that, that's why single people wanted to get married. Married couple, they want to have children. all that, right? Because it's a human needs. And after that, we wanted it to have esteem. Now is more of, okay, how can I make my life more meaningful through our work? We wanted it to achieve so that people recognize things that what we do. After we do, some said, even this psychologist, Abraham Maslow, was saying, self-actualization is very, very difficult to gain. Except there's a couple people, like a Mother Teresa. So self-actualization is identified with more of a purpose of life, like a more of a beyond, more than you, more than what you have. How can you share what you have to bring more meaning to others? That's why Bill Gates have his own foundation to provide, right, vaccine to the people who are, health risk. So we do have our foundation too. So that's what we came here today. We wanted to educate people correctly about the mental health. So these all things, when you really think about it, if you come to my clinic and then to my office sharing about one of these layers that you are unmet, then I will probably guide you in a way that how to achieve. So theory, all these theories, psychological theories, understanding us and human mind and human emotion and human behavior, so that how can we achieve those things? But think about it, the word achieve. It kind of comes with the reason why these are still very famous theory is because it's hard to get. Maybe Beijing needs, especially in America, physical needs, safety, love and belonging, maybe. But after that, it's kind of a little bit, it's kind of stagnated. It's hard to get. We're searching for meaning. A lot of us here are leaders, which means we're more of a, esteem, self-actualization, try to find the meaning. If you're not going to be here if it is basic physical needs are unmet, you will be in somewhere working right now because you needed to bring the bread to the table for your family. But we are here because we want to use your gift and your skill to serve your community. Isn't it? Right. So all these theories that we kind of needed to understand, this is all human needs, but it comes with achieving. The reason why if we approach everything with earning, achieving, gaining, obtaining, it comes with three things. That's why it is really hard to get. First one is effort required. It requires a lot of work to get. If you're single, if you want to find a good one, you have to kind of, groom yourself and, lose your weight and all that. It comes with effort. But in our mind, comes with the effort is not an easy thing. You have to put a lot of significant efforts to gain that. Second one is it very difficult to acquisitions. There are probably a lot of other obstacles and challenges to get that in the process of getting it. Sometimes my own flaws, sometimes my own circumstances, sometimes a lack of a skill. In order for us to gain all these things, it's not easy to get. If these are all easy to get, everyone get it. But why still our businesses still survive? Because it's not easy to gain. Esteem? If all parents, if a self-esteem is that easy to get, you can raise your children with a high self-esteem. But it's not easy. Confidence? Of course, it is a beautiful word, but how can we get that? It's not easy. It's difficult. There is some obstacle and challenges in the process of gaining that. The final one is limited availability too. Everything that what you need or what you want, not readily available all the time. Okay, I want a husband. Go out. Husband is waiting for you? No. You want a job, you go out and apply the job. You get the job? No, it's not easy to gain that. But think about, we are all, especially in a Western culture in America, especially with capitalism, individualism is so strong. There's a more of a consumerism mindset that set culture and society here. That everything you have to do something about it. If you don't gain it, you're less than others. Why you are doing all your effort? Because you want to feel better than others. Our life is conditioned. Our mind is conditioned to gain something by your extra effort. Overcoming difficulties, creating the opportunities. Everything is based on your performance. You have to earn it. Sometimes we have no choice but to teach parents to create some consequences so their children can earn. A love cannot be earned. So everything that what we're talking about, especially the letter that you see on the screen, are most fundamental needs for human beings. Without this, we cannot survive. Think about the identity. Who you are is the most fundamental thing for your life, whether you're Christian or not. But in this society, we're teaching what you do is who you are. You have to earn it. You have to achieve it. You put more effort, you will gain it. How can I find meaning? You have to make a certain figures every year, right? And then what you do, Dr. Paul, oh, okay, my title and my position bring the meaning. So then now we're going back again, try to gain. How about the satisfaction? We try so hard saving our money to go vacation, especially during the summertime. But that satisfaction lasts that long? Sometimes we need a vacation from the vacation because we're tired. Now we're coming back and friends are saying, hey, where did you go? And I say, oh my God, it's so beautiful, Hawaiian and all there. But we don't say I was so tired. I was so bored. We don't share that. The satisfaction lasts not that long. But we are striving everything that what we wanted to gain as if these are the last long dreams. And then freedom. In again, capitalism, individualistic culture, we associated freedom with the freedom of choice in your speech. Is it truly? If I give you all open autonomy to make a choice, will that make you freedom? No. Sometimes, even for me, and I go to the Arborson, I'm looking at all the, vinegars? Thousands of vinegars in front of me. Which one is the best for my salad? Too many choices. Even our young generation, our Gen Zs, the millennials, seems like our tables are all like X, Y, and baby boomer. But the Gen Zs, the most fearful things for them is what they call FOBO. Fear of making best option. That's why they cannot make a choice anymore. They all say, you make a choice. Mom, you do it, and I will just do it. What do you want to eat? Whatever. They have a fear of making choices. So having more choice, freedom of choices, or speaking your mind doesn't give you the freedom. We know that. But what about hope? Hope is not just the wishful thinking. But we're aiming at maybe next year I will be raised 5% more. That's hope. So after then, the what? Hope always have limitations on that. But think about it. Again, we are not exempt from all this. focusing on achieving, gaining, obtaining. We are formed and we are conditioned. The problem of America, I will just use it in America, but maybe globally too. Problem of pursuing happiness is we set the condition, if I gain, then it will make me happy. But what if you don't gain then? I don't know how many percentage of our Americans actually achieved happiness that lasts forever. And sometimes probably some people made it. Some people made it and then they reached their dream job, dream house, dream car, dream family. What if they lose it? And suddenly their identity is gone. Their meaning is suddenly shattered. There's no hope for anymore. There's no satisfaction, nothing to look for anymore. No wonder in America, suicide rate is so high. Second cause of death for among between the 14 to 24 is suicide. Can you believe that? We are losing our young generation by taking their own lives because we are conditioned and making this culture and society as if we get it and we're happy. It's the absence of a suffering, absence of a pain, absence of discomfort bring happiness. We're teaching our young generation in a wrong message with this. But how does Christianity fulfill our needs? As we just saw here, it's not based on what you do. It's not based on achieving, gaining by your performance. It is more receiving. John chapter 1:12 said, yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, you will have right to become child of God. Your identity is given to you. You never earn it by your work, merit, effort. It's given to you. You receive, then you become, right to become child of God. Oops, time is up. Your meaning is received. I lumped everything of this 5 category. If you put it one word altogether, is a person, Jesus. Jesus, who he is, made us who we are. He is the reason that our life has a meaning. He set us free from all the bondage and slaves of all the things that we are driven by. In John chapter 4, the women in Samaria, they met Jesus. Jesus pointing it out. Not what you are looking for, your needs are not, will be removed or fulfilled or satisfied by meeting a man. That man, if that meaning that they are putting it into it, it will eat it up of their lives. Suffering in their mind, the physical feelings, all that emotions that what we're experiencing. And Jesus said, I am the living water. And he said, I am the who you are looking for. So all these 5 words, if you put it together, is Jesus. Jesus is our hope. Jesus is the one who set us free. Jesus is the one who satisfies our needs. Jesus is our meaning. Jesus is our identity. Okay, how does Christianity fulfill our needs that we talked about? Biblical application of this experience, I'm going to do it right now. But before we're kind of getting into that, how Christianity offer that what this word, it makes sense though. It makes sense those are psychological theory. It makes sense about what other people are talking about. This culture is leading us to. But what is Christianity is all about that make us a little different. And then meeting all these needs. I want you to think about it, one thing. One thing among all the things that what we're just talking about. What is the one thing that you will love so much that you will die for? My 5-year-old patients, I ask, same question is a Lego set. Okay, what is yours? Is a man who you're looking for? Women that you are looking for? Money that you want to earn? Job that you want to secure? Place that you want to leave? Vacation that you want to go? What is the one thing in your life right now, if I'm asking you, that you will love so much that you will die for? Think about it. And I'll tell you. Jesus loved you so much, he will die for. Jesus loved you so much that he emptied his glory. He left his home, heaven, to just to have you. Just one thing that Jesus was thinking about from the beginning to regain you and bring you home. In a Samaritan, the women that Jesus said, he was thirsty. He was thirsty. He was asking for water. Right before he died, he said, I thirst. He had to go through the thirst so that he can give you the life. Jesus let go of everything to just have you, to have a relationship with you. And he said, it is finished. And he said, receive and believe. And I am in you. If you receive this gospel, the good news, will set you free, give you the true identity, true satisfaction. C.S. Lewis said, if creatures are not born with the desires unless satisfaction for those desires exist. We all do have desires because it's already there. But think about it, if we couldn't find ourselves those desires, that nothing on this earth can satisfy you. The most probable explanation is that we made for another world. That's what Jesus finished. He gave us the new word. He gave us the new identity. He gave us the new meaning and new family. We completely moved from unmet needs of this world to the new word. And Jesus said, it's in me that I am in you. Many of us needed to face that discomfort that we are having in our heart. There's something constantly drive us every day. Something is bigger than, something is greater than God in our heart. That's why we're uncomfortable. That doesn't make us feel vulnerable. We don't like to be vulnerable, especially in our culture. Be aware what motivates you, what leads you, what desire is needing you to do what you do. But Jesus said, I am enough for you. I let go all to have you. If you have me, then you will have it all. Let's have a little bit of experience. So take a moment a little bit. This is one of the theory again. It's again a little bit of a Christian meaning into that too. So I want you to look at it this. One side is focusing life on the being. Another one is on doing. So where your life are constantly focusing on finding your identity, meaning and satisfaction, freedom, and hope from. Reflect yourself and how much we're focusing on being who we are in Christ, being who you are, how you are engaging and communicating with others, the beliefs that you have, the values that you have, and okay to be vulnerable to lead to Jesus. We cannot focus on only one side. We cannot focus on another side. It has to be balanced, right? So I want you to kind of looking at it a little bit and then reflect on yourself and how and which direction that you want to go into and what balance that you need in your life. And then take a moment and share with your partners again until Dr. Esther comes to this. Oh, pairs, please. Yes, pair. So I think, again, we want to have a little bit more meaningful time together with. So just a pair and then share this together. Thank you.
I don't know. I really like the title of this workshop. I feel like it's something that we need ourselves, being still, being filled, being led. And, that's really the prerequisites to being led, right? Many times our prayer topic as we're caring for others or doing ministry is, God, Holy Spirit, guide me, guide me. Guide me is such a very, very common prayer topic. The funny thing is, if you're being still and you're being filled, that is a automatic byproduct. So maybe I'm going to reverse my prayer topic or go the other way and say, help me be still, more self-aware, help me be filled, understand your good news accurately of how I don't want to achieve these things, but I received it because what you did already and you said it's finished on the cross. And then I'm going to have confidence that you will lead me, you will guide me. So when I think about the word being led, or the phrase being led, I think about one word: dependence. Dependence. So in your ministry of this care and care ministry, just hold on to that word: dependence. Not on the self, but on the Spirit, right? Depending on the Spirit to lead me for everything, not only in this ministry, but in life, every day. And two wonderful verses, John 14:26, about how He will be the one to teach you. He will be the one to remind you. He will be the one to tell you to open your mouth and actually tell you to not open your mouth, right? And Romans 15:13 is a beautiful verse about how He will fill you with joy and peace. That's first. That's step one: joy and peace and hope, so that you may overflow. We cannot overflow and do anything if we're not filled with His joy and peace. And I know we can't just ditch our roles. Many mornings I wake up, I am not joyful, I'm not peaceful, but I can't ditch my clients, right? I can't do a no-show. They might do a no-show on me, but I can't do a no-show on my clients. So this is an important every morning prayer topic. Fill me with your joy and peace, even though I don't really feel it right now. So the word dependence, if I could have you hold on to that always. And being led regarding, how do I know when to focus on the physical versus the psychological versus spiritual? How do I know what to do? How do I know how do I help somebody figure that out? Right? And this is a very, very tough question for those who do not go through clinical training or have some formal training. And so those of you who are sitting are very, very precious. This is a volunteer position that I understand, right? You're not being paid for having these hours of sit-down conversations or reaching out or or anything like that, oh, your reward is in heaven. So look forward to that. But how do I know? It has to be, Lord, lead me. I depend on you to lead me. I don't know. Even when you're in that conversation, you're going to say it under your breath to God, I have no idea what to do. I have no idea. I don't even know what this person's talking about. Right? Sometimes I go through that. They're just rambling on and on. I'm like, oh, and I nod. And I'm just like, okay. But when it comes to how do you know to address it physically, psychologically, spiritually, actually, it's all of it. Right? It's all of it, because you can't divide the person into these parts. We are all of these as one person, as one individual. So we have to address all of the areas. If you do know that they have a physical need, don't ignore that, right? If you realize that they've not slept for days, they haven't eaten for days, or they're actually in physical pain, that might be an actual like basic need that we have to help them with. If they have cognitive emotional struggles and it's beyond your scope, you could say, you know what, let's get help together. You don't have to have those answers for them. And if you know it's a spiritual need, right, we can help them realize, you know what, I think it might be a spiritual need. How about we go together to our pastor and present that together, right? So unless the Spirit is guiding you to share something that you know that person would need to hear right then and there. Definitely never to do it alone, right? That's why they're coming to you, and you thank them and you say, I'm so glad you're not doing this alone, right? Thank you for teaching me by you coming to us or coming to me that when I have that need, I'm going to go to someone too. Right? Never to do it alone. Sometimes I congratulate somebody when they come to my office. They go like, why are you congratulating? I say, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming here. I really congratulate you for having such courage to come to share your need. Because we don't want to do all these alone. So in this next series of slides, I'm going to power through them. They might be helpful. Some phrases to maybe avoid, and some phrases that maybe that might be helpful. And sometimes you will be led to say nothing. That's one of the hardest thing for me is silence, because I have these thoughts I project onto my clients that if I'm silent, that they're thinking I don't care, or they think I'm just ambivalent or apathetic. Sometimes you need silence to talk with God first. You're going to lead me now, right? I'm going to depend on you. Fill me. Be here. I know you are here. So even though I know you're here, let my friend know you're here. Let this counseling know you're here. So, but to be really practical, I'm going to share with you some things that are actually said. And maybe someone counseled you with these phrases and you might remember that was not very encouraging, right? For example, you know what? Just suck it out. Maybe they didn't use that word. Snap out of it. Hey, you don't look so sick. You must hide it really well. It sounds like it would be encouraging, but it's actually not, right? Because they are feeling sick or they're feeling so bad. You don't have a lot of serious problems in life. Why are you so sad? You have a roof over your head. You have 3 meals a day. I know how you feel. I went through that same thing this definitely will not they will shut down and not talk any further, because now it's turned into talking about me, right? Just exercise, eat well, pray more, seek the Lord more, trust in God more. I'm just compiling a lot in this one. This one's very, very, very common. Good intentions, right? These are all actually right things, but not the right time to say it, right? Maybe there's some deep sin you need to repent of. Right? It must be related to a spiritual problem. Let's dig deeper and find that. Remember, Job's friends did this. Okay. And we know how Job felt about that. Cheer up. It's going to be okay. It'll go away. Hang in there. I used to say hang in there during college very, very often, not realizing they're barely hanging. So how can we say to them, hang in there, right? So instead, maybe some more helpful, but you got to think about it, would be, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm all ears if you want to talk about it. If you want to talk about it more. Sometimes they just only want to talk about it. And they're testing the waters by saying, I don't feel good today. And then they stop. And you're like, okay. Sometimes they just need an invitation. Talk about it even more. Or please tell me more. I want to understand. It gives them this feeling of that it tells them that you don't assume, it tells them that you don't assume that they assume that you understand exactly what they're saying. It helps them expand and elaborate. Sometimes when I don't know what to say, sometimes I do wonder, wow, how long have you been suffering from this? So this is a little bit of filler. This is kind of like my trying to buy some time as I'm asking God, please lead me. Because when you do this question, it's a very concrete question. It's not an open-ended question. And then they're going to go back in time of when it all started, and sometimes they'll tell you all of the background story. This one is interesting. You have to choose when to use this one. This one you got to be led. Are you interested in receiving professional assistance? The reason why this is tricky is sometimes this is helpful when they wanted it, they needed validation, that it's okay to go get professional help, that they have a reason enough to go get professional help. It's tricky on the other hand, because what if they're going to assume that you assume, you need some help. You need to go get some professional help, right? So that's why you have to be led for these kind of comments. This one is very empowering, because as counselors or as people who are trying to give counsel, we are trying to fix their problem or we're trying to guide them. But this one is an empowering question. What do you want to do? What do you think you should do? And they might like, I have no idea. That's why I'm coming to talk to you, right? And then you can talk about it and explore together. This one is a statement of validating how this is problematic for them, how upsetting. And it's different from saying, I'm sorry you're going through that. So a lot of people say, I'm sorry you're going through that. And I've learned that that one's really tricky, so it's probably better to say, how upsetting for you. And it's even, the word upset is so neutral, but it means not feel good, right? It's not feeling good. So rather than defining the feeling for them, how sad this must be for you, how frustrating this must be for you, how annoying, right? You just started to define, you were wanting to help them discover their feelings, like what Jennifer was talking about, like what their unmet needs are and feelings are. So this is more of just, I'm hearing you. Doesn't feel good. That's another very general, neutral phrase. Doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel like it will feel good. This one, definitely be led, right? Because it really definitely could be a time that they need your prayer and they wanted someone to offer it. But there are times I can feel they don't want it, even though they are a believer. And I've already had a few clients that I share with a therapist. I'm a psychiatrist, right? So I prescribe medications. And the therapist was a believer. And we had a mutual client who was a Christian. And the Christian client of mine coming to me for med management tells me of how they were offended by their Christian therapist. for being preachy or acting like they're more spiritually superior. So this is so tricky, right? I'm letting you know this is trickier than it seems sometimes, and I don't want to scare you in the upcoming months as a lot of people are going to approach regarding their struggles. But it's easy if you're going to depend on the Holy Spirit to let Him do that work through you and with you. Okay? All right, so I powered through those because we left 10 minutes for a quick Q&A, and if we go beyond those 10 minutes, Jennifer's very, very gracious and generous to stay behind for a few more minutes. And so if you need a bathroom break, you can come back. But yeah, we have 10 minutes for any... Oh, absolutely. Can you stand up? I'm so sorry. We should introduce... So we're from Oak Hill Foundation, and Oak Hill Foundation is the nonprofit who supports Fully Health Clinic. So the clinic is the Christian-based clinic, and these two are our lovely therapists who have joined us today. And they are also available for one-on-one questions if you want to ask like specific questions. So yeah, Tiffany and Elizabeth.